It was supposed to be a night of celebration. On the evening of June 6, 1992, two high school graduates, Suzie Streeter and Stacy McCall, attended several graduation parties across Springfield, Missouri. They laughed, posed for photographs, and made plans for the summer ahead. Suzie had a sharp wit, Stacy a soft charm, together they were inseparable. By midnight, they were tired but happy. The plan had been to stay at a friend's house after the parties, but when the friend's place became too crowded, the girls decided instead to spend the night at Suzie's home. Suzie lived with her mother, Sherrill Levitt, a warm but private woman of 47. They arrived at the Levitt home sometime after 2 a.m. The quiet suburban street was dim, lit only by pale street lamps. The girls parked their cars in the driveway, Stacy's Toyota Corolla and Suzie's red Ford Escort. Inside, the air smelled faintly of vanilla candles and hairspray, remnants of the day. What happened after that remains a mystery. The next morning, friends arrived at the Levitt house expecting to find the girls. Instead, they found 3 cars in the driveway, the front door unlocked, and the family dog, a small terrier, pacing anxiously inside. Cheryl's bed was neatly made, but her purse, cigarettes, and keys remained on the nightstand. Stacy's belongings were untouched, her clothes folded, jewelry on the dresser. Suzie's purse sat neatly beside her mother's. Nothing suggested a struggle. Yet all 3 women were gone. Forever. Official reports catalogued the details, but neighbors spoke of something else. A strange stillness clung to the house. At night, the porch light flickered though the bulb was new. Passers-by claimed to hear muffled voices inside, 3 women talking in hushed tones, their words just out of reach. Some swore they saw shadows moving behind the curtains even after police had cleared the scene. And then there were the phone calls. Several of Suzie's friends received chilling, obscene messages on their answering machines in the days after the disappearance. Voices whispering, mocking. One message reportedly contained faint laughter, followed by the sound of a woman choking back a sob. Police dismissed them as pranks. But those who listened closely claimed the voices weren't strangers at all. They sounded like the missing women. Years later, the house on East Del Mar Street was sold. Families came and went, none staying long. Realtors complained that doors refused to stay locked, that the air inside grew colder after sunset. A tenant once reported seeing a pale woman standing at the foot of her bed, hair tangled, lips moving silently. She moved out the next day. The case remains unsolved. But in the decades since, Springfield locals whisper that the 3 women never left. They are still there, trapped in the silence of that night, trying to speak, trying to be found. Detective David Asher would never forget stepping into the Levitt house that June morning. By the time he arrived, the front yard already buzzed with activity, neighbors whispering, reporters circling, family members wringing their hands. What disturbed him most was not the chaos outside, but the strange stillness inside. The air carried a faint sweetness, like melted wax or perfume long faded. The blinds were half drawn, filtering sunlight into pale streaks that seemed too weak for summer. He noticed the dog first, a nervous terrier named Cinnamon. She paced in circles, nails clicking on the tile, occasionally stopping to stare at the empty hallway with her ears flat. Animals sense things, Asher thought. Things people couldn't. The scene didn't add up. All 3 purses were neatly lined up in the living room, as though their owners had stepped out briefly and forgotten them. The television flickered with static, its screen glowing faintly blue. A glass of water on the counter had left a ring, condensation still fresh, as if someone had taken a sip moments before vanishing. But there were no signs of forced entry. No overturned chairs. No broken glass. Only absence. When Asher canvassed the neighborhood, the stories he collected made his skin prickle. One woman swore she heard muffled voices around 3 a.m., a woman speaking rapidly, another voice replying, then silence. Another neighbor recalled seeing a strange greenish light filter through the Levitt's curtains around the same time. At first, Asher dismissed it as hysteria. But he couldn't shake the detail of the light. Witnesses from separate houses described it the same way, a pale, unnatural glow, pulsing once like a heartbeat before vanishing into the night. Then came the calls. Within hours of the women's disappearance, Stacy's best friend received a voicemail. The recording was garbled, but in the static, a faint female voice repeated, "Help me. Help me." Another message on a different line contained what sounded like laughter, distorted and overlapping, as if more than one voice spoke through the same throat. Technicians tried to trace the calls, but they led nowhere. Each originated from disconnected numbers. When Asher listened to the recordings, his chest tightened. He couldn't decide what chilled him more, the words, or the fact that one voice sounded exactly like Sherrill Levitt's. By the third day, Asher was spending long hours inside the Levitt home. His colleagues teased him for his obsession, but something about the house gnawed at him. One night, while reviewing notes in the living room, he heard it, the faint creak of footsteps upstairs. He froze. He knew the house was empty, officers had already cleared the rooms. Still, the boards groaned as though someone were walking slowly, deliberately. He climbed the stairs, flashlight trembling in his hand. The hallway stretched before him, lined with closed doors. At the end was Suzie's room. The door stood ajar. Inside, posters of rock bands clung to the walls, corners peeling. A half-burned candle sat on the dresser. The scent of vanilla hung heavy in the air. He scanned the room, heart hammering. Nothing. But as he turned to leave, the candle flickered, though there was no breeze. And then he heard it, a whisper, faint, urgent. A girl's voice, right behind his ear. "Don't look." He spun around. The room was empty. That night, Asher dreamed of 3 women standing in the Levitt living room. Their faces were blurred, but he knew who they were. Suzie, Stacy, Sherrill. They stood in silence, hands clasped. Then Suzie lifted her head. Her face came into focus. Her eyes were hollow, mouth opening too wide, stretching unnaturally. From her throat came not a scream but a chorus of voices, overlapping, echoing, like dozens of women crying out at once. Asher woke in a sweat, his radio crackling with static though it wasn't turned on. Days turned to weeks. Leads dried up. Tips poured in, a suspicious van, men seen near the house, rumors of abductions. Each was investigated, each fizzled. But the strangeness in the Levitt house persisted. Officers reported lights switching on by themselves, doors locking and unlocking. One rookie swore he saw a figure in the hallway mirror, a woman in a nightgown, staring, her mouth moving soundlessly. He quit the force a week later. Asher stopped writing these details in his official reports. He knew no one would believe him. But he began to keep a private journal. In it, he wrote of the whispers that followed him home, the scent of vanilla candles appearing in his apartment at night, the sound of faint knocking at his door when no one was there. He knew the 3 women were trying to tell him something. And he feared that whatever had taken them was not done yet. Detective David Asher had always been a skeptic. He believed in evidence, timelines, and witnesses, not whispers and dreams. But the Springfield case had started to eat at him in ways he couldn't explain. The police department wanted results. The media circled like vultures. Every day, new tips poured in, most of them useless. A suspicious van here, a strange man there. Asher followed each lead until it unraveled into nothing. But something nagged at him, the similarities. He started digging through old case files, poring over yellowed reports and grainy photographs. And slowly, a pattern emerged. 10 years earlier, in 1982, 2 women vanished from a motel just off I-44, barely a mile from the Levitt home. Their belongings were left behind, beds still made, purses untouched. The case was never solved. In 1975, a single mother and her daughter disappeared from their farmhouse outside Springfield. Plates of food still sat on the kitchen table, untouched. No forced entry. No bodies. And in 1961, a young couple vanished after leaving a local dance. Their car was found abandoned at the edge of the woods, keys still in the ignition, headlights on. Different decades. Different names. But always the same detail, people vanishing as if erased, leaving behind the ordinary traces of life suddenly interrupted. Asher consulted the Historical Society, combing through local folklore. An elderly archivist hesitated before speaking, lowering his voice as though the walls could hear. "They say there's something in Greene County," the man whispered. "Something that takes. People vanish here more than most places, you know. We used to call it the hunger." Asher raised an eyebrow. "The hunger?" The archivist nodded. "Old stories, going back to the Osage tribes before settlers came. They spoke of a presence in the woods. A shadow that fed on voices. When it came, you'd hear whispers in your sleep, and people would be gone by morning." Asher felt his chest tighten. Whispers. Just like he had heard in Suzie's room. Late one night, reviewing evidence, Asher flipped through photographs taken from the Levitt house. He froze when he reached one. It was a simple crime scene photo of the living room. But in the reflection of the TV screen, barely visible, distorted by static, was the outline of three women. Not standing, not smiling. Their faces stretched wide, eyes hollow, mouths open. Asher shut the file quickly, bile rising in his throat. He told himself it was a trick of the light, a coincidence. But deep down, he knew better. 2 weeks after the disappearance, Asher returned alone to the Levitt home. It was past midnight. The neighborhood was silent, houses dark. The Levitt place looked like a hollow shell, blinds drawn, porch light flickering. He let himself in with a key from the department. The air inside was staler now, colder. The dog was gone, taken by relatives, but Asher swore he could still hear the click of tiny paws on the floor. He moved through the house slowly, every board creaking under his weight. In the hallway mirror, he thought he saw movement, a pale figure darting past. He swung his flashlight, but the hall was empty. Upstairs, in Suzie's room, the candle was gone. But the scent of vanilla was stronger than ever. And then came the whisper again. "David." This time it spoke his name. He backed into the hallway, chest pounding. But the whisper followed. "David, we're here." 3 voices in unison. He ran, stumbling down the stairs, fumbling at the lock until the door finally gave. He didn't stop running until he was back in his car, hands shaking on the wheel. That night, in his private journal, Asher wrote. June 22, 1992. "They are still in that house. I don't know how, but I heard them. All 3. They're trying to speak, but something else is with them. Something that won't let them leave. The hunger. If I keep looking, it will notice me. I think it already has." He underlined the last sentence twice. After that night, Asher began to notice changes in himself. At the station, he caught coworkers staring at him strangely, as if his eyes lingered too long, his voice sounded not quite right. He would drift off mid-sentence, hearing whispers under his own breath that weren't his words. At home, he started unplugging his phone, certain that voices were bleeding through the static at night. His answering machine clicked on by itself, playing messages of nothing but breathing, sometimes laughter. Once, he woke to find a message light blinking. When he pressed play, it was his own voice on the tape. "Don't look." The same words he had heard whispered behind his ear in Suzie's room. Asher was a man of logic, but logic had no place here. Something bound the missing women. Something bound him now, too. The hunger didn't just take people. It fed on them. On their voices, their presence, their very identity. That was why there were no bodies, no evidence, only silence. And now it was hungry again. Detective David Asher hadn't slept in days. His eyes were sunken, his notebook filled with scribbles that looked less like police work and more like a madman's ramblings. The whispers never stopped now. They followed him everywhere, murmuring from the corners of rooms, echoing in static whenever he passed a radio or television. Sometimes it was three distinct voices, Suzie, Stacy, Sherrill. Other times, it was a chorus, hundreds of whispers overlapping, begging, warning, weeping. And beneath them all, a deeper sound, a low, throbbing hum. Like a heartbeat. Like something vast and alive. Desperate, Asher returned to the archives, searching not for criminals, but for patterns of hunger. He found newspaper clippings dating back a century. Families who vanished from their homes. Miners who disappeared underground, leaving tools scattered. Entire farmsteads abandoned overnight, meals left on the table. Each event spaced years apart. Each within Greene County or the surrounding woods. The pattern was undeniable. Something fed here. And every few decades, it came back. On a humid July night, Asher returned one last time to the Levitt home. The house had been officially cleared weeks ago, but its silence still seemed to pulse. Windows reflected nothing but darkness. The porch light flickered steadily, as though waiting for him. He unlocked the door, heart thudding. The air inside was damp, suffocating. And then he heard it, clear as day. David. 3 voices in unison. He followed the sound into the living room. The television, unplugged, glowed faintly with static. In its reflection, he saw them, Suzie, Stacy, Sherrill. Standing side by side, faces pale, eyes hollow. "Where are you?" he whispered. Their mouths moved. Words formed, but he couldn't hear them. Only static. He stepped closer. "Tell me." And then all 3 pointed, upstairs. The attic hatch groaned as he pulled it open. A wave of hot air spilled down, thick with the smell of wax and iron. His flashlight beam trembled across the rafters. At first, the space was empty. Just dust, insulation, forgotten boxes. Then the whispers began to converge, louder and louder, until they filled his skull. He clutched his head, teeth grinding. And from the corner of the attic, the shadows stirred. They pulled together, thickening, twisting, until they formed a shape. Too tall, too thin, a body stretched like smoke. Its face was a void, but its mouth was endless, opening wider than humanly possible. From that mouth poured voices. Dozens. Hundreds. All the missing. He fell to his knees, tears streaming, as the shape loomed closer. "Join us," the voices whispered. The next morning, Asher's car was found idling outside the Levitt home. Engine running. Driver's door open. But Asher himself was gone. Inside the house, investigators found nothing unusual. No signs of struggle. No blood. No prints. Only his notebook remained, lying on the living room floor. The last entry scrawled in shaky handwriting. "It's not them. It's never them. It's what holds them. The hunger lives in the silence. And once you hear it, it hears you." The case of the Springfield Three remains unsolved. No bodies were ever recovered. No arrests ever made. Detective David Asher's disappearance was quietly filed away, his notes sealed from the public. But locals still whisper about the house on East Delmar Street. They say if you drive past on a summer night with your windows down, you'll hear voices carried on the wind, 3 women calling faintly from inside. And sometimes, just sometimes, you'll hear another voice. A man's.